Hi there. Most models of grief and loss explain it in the context of five stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. There are a few other models that suggest there's actually seven stages, so I think I'm going to look at it as a seven stage approach in understanding the grief process the families go through that have children with disabilities and neurodiversities. Um, the the seven stage model talks initially about the initial shock of getting the diagnosis or realizing maybe your child needs to be assessed because perhaps they're not meeting their milestones developmentally, and you're starting to maybe can think, oh my, there's something I need my child to be assessed to see if everything's okay. So it's that initial shock and numbness and and maybe suspension. You maybe be locked in that emotion for a bit before actually acting on it and doing anything with it. So there's the shock, then there's the denial, basically. This isn't actually happening to me. This can't be real. What's going on? Why? You know, you just kind of can't get your head around it. That whole sense of denial. I think it's happening, but I don't want it to be. So, kind of trying to suppress your emotions and feelings around it. And then the feeling of guilt, it's one in the seven stage model that isn't often talked about, that families feel. They feel remorse, they question themselves. Like, could I have done something differently? That's what I'm talking about when I say mommy guilt or family guilt. I think particularly mothers, like, grief and loss with disability affects everybody in the household, included the father figure and the siblings. But I think there's a particular guilt that a mother experiences. Like, it's something that's her fault. I did something wrong, and they internalize a lot of the pain and grief as being something that they done. And feel a lot of kind of guilt and remorse around it. I did a lot, and then I used to blame myself and everything, and through all of those emotions were really, really hard. And kept thinking about how I'd done this differently, that differently. There's a couple of things in my pregnancy that I had always wished I'd done differently. I'd got an injection and stuff, and didn't know I was pregnant for hepatitis because of the work I was doing, which was always high risk. And then I was in contact with somebody with shingles. So all this stuff, and they're all things to say they aren't good when you're in the early stages of pregnancy. So all that went through my head, and blaming myself, loads of guilt. And then that often moves in the process into stage of anger. Like, why is this happening to my family? Why me? What have I done wrong? I'm a good person. Why can't this happen to someone else? It's not fair. So there's that whole anger, trying to get your head around it and understand why it's actually at your front door, your own doorstep. And then that can lead into the one that I worry most about would be depression. We've even become very isolated, feeling really low and not see a way out or a future for you and your family, which is always a concern. You don't want to be stuck in the depression stage, because that's, the stage probably you're feeling most vulnerable emotionally and mentally. And I guess that's why we talk so much about the importance of, connecting with your community if you can. It's very hard when you have a child with disability, and there aren't that many groups for neurodiverse or disabled children from neurotypical, like programs like Sure Start and stuff. There's very little out there for families, but try and keep those connections with friends, family, building up your resilience where you can. Get out for a walk, just do things that keep a positive mental attitude and mindset. It's so important, so you don't slip further into the depression. Then this model talks about reconstruction, actively working through the emotions, sorting out your feelings, and begin to rebuild your life, which is a life now that is about disability as opposed to a neurotypical parenting journey. and what that looks like. And I guess when you start doing that, it leads closer to the last stage, which is acceptance that, okay, this mightn't have been the reality I prepared for, planned for, but I'm going to find a way to overcome a lot of these challenges. I'm going to find a way to make life as pleasant and as comfortable for my child or children. We're going to find a way to continue to evolve and develop as a family despite this, and that's reconstructing the model and the narrative in a positive way, where you're thinking, in terms of the disability and working together more, as a family unit. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the stages of grief, briefly explained. If anybody wants to message anything, a messenger about any of this, feel free to do so. But again, it's just getting out the point that there is a process of grief and loss that families go through. Or and a family could be a mummy on her own, a daddy, and their own grandparents caring for the children, older siblings. But the disability journey, there are strong emotions attached to it, and a sense of grief and loss. So, hearts to all our families out there. We get it. I'm going through it too, and we're with you on this. Take care.